My cousin falsely accused me of sexual assault. My entire family called me a predator without hearing my side. But when she confessed the truth and lost everything, they came begging. What I did left them speechless. I'm 29 years old. I work as a software developer for a mid-sized company here in the city. And honestly, I need to tell this story because what happened a few months ago basically destroyed my family. Or at least the idea I had of it. The thing is that my cousin Sarah falsely accused me of assaulting her at a family gathering. And when I say she accused me, I don't mean she insinuated something weird or made some ambiguous comment. No, she literally pointed me out as an aggressor in front of my entire family. And the worst part of it all is that everyone believed her. I mean everyone, including my own parents and my brother. I guess I should start from the beginning, so it makes sense how something so absurd could escalate that way. Sarah and I grew up together, close cousins who saw each other at all the family parties, birthdays, Christmases, that kind of thing. She's my Aunt Karen's daughter, my mom's sister, and she was always kind of dramatic, but I never thought she was capable of something like this. We were a close family, like one of those that has barbecues every month and gets together for any excuse, and I had a pretty normal relationship with everyone. My brother Tom is 2 years older than me. We were always close, even though we were typical brothers who fought about stupid things. My parents, well, they were normal parents, a bit overprotective sometimes, but nothing out of the ordinary. I'd been living in my own apartment for like 3 years, had my stable job, an amazing girlfriend named Rachel who I'd been with for a year and a half, and things were going well, It wasn't a perfect life, but it was my life, and I was happy with it. It all started at a family barbecue last July. It was my uncle's birthday, Karen's husband, and obviously the whole family was there. There were like 20 people, maybe more, between aunts, uncles, cousins, some parents of family friends they always invited, that kind of event. I went with Rachel, who already knew everyone because we'd been together long enough, and everything seemed normal. Sarah was there with her boyfriend of the moment. I don't remember his name because honestly she changed partners every 6 months, but the guy seemed decent. We ate, drank some beers, nothing excessive, and I spent most of the time playing soccer with my younger cousins in the yard and talking with Tom about I don't know what work nonsense. At no point was I alone with Sarah. I didn't even have a long conversation with her beyond a, "Hi, how are you?" when I arrived. That's important. You know what I mean? Because there literally wasn't any moment when what she later said happened could have happened. The thing is, I left around 10 at night because I had to work early the next day, and Rachel stayed a bit longer because she was helping my mom with something in the kitchen. All good, all normal. I got home, threw myself on the couch to watch something on Netflix, and fell asleep. The next day, I woke up to like 15 missed messages and several calls from numbers I didn't have saved, and when I checked, I saw that Sarah had called me like 5 times since 11 the night before. I thought maybe something bad had happened, like a family emergency, so I called her back and what she told me literally left me paralyzed. She answered, crying, or at least pretending to cry very convincingly, and told me she needed to talk to me about what happened last night. I was confused. I asked her what had happened, if someone was hurt or what was going on, and she said, "No, David, what you did to me." I felt like someone had thrown a bucket of cold water on me, I told her I didn't know what she was talking about, and she started saying that I had cornered her in the bathroom at my uncle's house, that I had tried to kiss her forcefully, that I had touched her without her consent. And when I say I was speechless, I'm not exaggerating. I literally couldn't even breathe properly. I told her that didn't happen, that I hadn't been anywhere near the bathroom with her, that we hadn't even talked beyond the initial greeting. But she kept insisting and crying and saying she was traumatized and couldn't believe I was capable of doing that to my own cousin. I hung up because I didn't know what else to say. I was in total shock, and I called Rachel immediately. She believed me instantly, didn't even doubt, told me Sarah had always seemed weird and dramatic to her, and that she was probably making everything up for some twisted reason. But it didn't end there. I mean, I wish it had ended with that uncomfortable call and that's it. Like 2 hours later, my mom called me, and by her tone of voice, I knew things were going to get worse. She told me that Sarah had posted a message in the family WhatsApp group, that giant group where all the aunts, uncles, cousins, and even some close family friends are, saying that I had sexually assaulted her at the barbecue and that she was devastated and couldn't believe nobody had noticed. The message was long, dramatic, full of false details about how I had supposedly followed her to the bathroom, how I had pushed her against the wall, how she had tried to scream but I had covered her mouth, things that never happened but that sounded specific enough for people to believe her. And the worst part is that she added that I had told her that if she said anything, nobody would believe her, because she was my cousin and the family would always protect me. I mean, basically she painted me as a calculating predator who had planned everything, when in reality I didn't even remember exchanging more than 3 words with her that night. My mom wasn't calling to ask me if it was true. She was calling to tell me she was disappointed in me, that she couldn't believe I had done something like that. And when I tried to explain to her that none of that had happened, that Sarah was lying, she cut me off and told me that victims always deserve to be heard and that it was typical of aggressors to deny everything. Those words, aggressors, coming from my own mother, destroyed me in a way I can't even explain. I begged her to listen to me, to please think about me, about who I am, about how I'd never done anything even remotely like that. But she just kept repeating that Sarah had no reason to lie and that I should take responsibility. Then my brother Tom called, and I expected that at least he would be neutral, that at least he'd give me the benefit of the doubt. But he basically told me he needed to give the situation space and that he couldn't take sides because Sarah was his cousin too, and to understand that it was a complicated situation. I yelled at him that it wasn't complicated, that it was simple, that I hadn't done anything and that she was lying. But he told me to calm down and that maybe when I was less upset, we could talk. I hung up because I felt like I was going to have a panic attack. Right there, my Aunt Karen, Sarah's mom, sent me like 20 messages saying I was a monster. How dare I touch her daughter, that she was going to do everything possible to make me pay for what I'd done, and threatened to go to the police. I responded only once, telling her that nothing Sarah said was true, and that if she wanted to go to the police, she should go, because I had nothing to hide. But she blocked me immediately. My other cousins started sending me messages, some more aggressive than others, and basically my whole family turned their backs on me in a matter of hours. My dad was the last to call, and his call was different because he seemed confused more than angry. He asked me what had really happened, but when I explained that nothing had happened, that Sarah was lying, for some reason I didn't understand. He sighed and told me he needed time to process it all, that he didn't know what to think and that it was better if we gave each other some time. I spent the next few days in absolute murted shock. I couldn't concentrate at work, barely slept, and every time I grabbed my phone I saw more messages from family members cutting me off, some asking me how I could be so sick, others simply telling me they never wanted to know anything about me again. Rachel stayed with me practically that whole week, forced me to eat because I had no appetite, hugged me when I woke up in the middle of the night with anxiety attacks, and repeated to me over and over that she knew I hadn't done anything, that she knew me, and that eventually the truth would come out. But I wasn't so sure, you know? Because people always say they believe in the presumption of innocence until it affects them personally, and then it's easier to believe whoever cries loudest. I tried to contact Sarah several times, sent her messages asking why she was doing this. What had really happened for her to get to that point? If someone had done something to her and she was confusing things, but she never responded. My cousin, Eric, one of the few who hadn't blocked me immediately, told me Sarah was devastated and was considering going to therapy for the trauma. And when I told him there was nothing to be traumatized about because nothing had happened, he told me he understood that was my version, but that he also understood Sarah and preferred to stay out of it. That your version thing infuriated me because it wasn't a version, it was the truth, but I didn't know how to make them understand anymore. I basically cut contact with my whole family after those first 2 weeks. I blocked almost everyone on social media, stopped answering calls, and focused on surviving day to day. Rachel convinced me to go to therapy because I was falling into a very dark hole, and honestly, it helped, or at least it helped me process all the rage and helplessness I felt. I also started going to the gym more frequently because I needed to get all that negative energy out somehow, and I reconnected with some college friends I hadn't seen in a while. They didn't know anything about what had happened, and it was a relief to spend time with people who saw me as me, not as a supposed aggressor. The months passed, and little by little I rebuilt something resembling a normal life, although obviously there was a giant hole where my family used to be. Rachel and I moved in together to a bigger apartment, something we'd been considering since before this whole disaster, and that also helped feel like I was moving forward instead of just existing. At work, nobody knew what had happened, and I preferred to keep it that way, although sometimes it was hard to concentrate when I remembered everything. And then, like 4 months after the initial accusation, I received a message from Sarah on Facebook. She apparently hadn't blocked me there, and the message said something like, "David, I need to talk to you. Please don't delete this." My first instinct was precisely to delete it and block her. But something made me read the whole thing. The message was long, full of weird excuses and justifications, but the essence was that she was admitting she had lied, that I hadn't done anything to her, that she was going through a difficult time that night because her boyfriend had broken up with her right before the barbecue, and she saw that I was happy with Rachel and I don't know. Basically, she had a psychotic tantrum and decided to destroy me just because. She didn't apologize directly in that first message, rather she tried to explain her reasons as if that made things less serious, but at the end she said she knew she had made a mistake and was considering telling the family the truth. I responded only one thing, that it wasn't a mistake, that it was a deliberate lie that almost destroyed my life, and that if she didn't tell the family the truth immediately I was going to do it. She responded that she needed time to find the right words, and I told her no, that she'd already had 4 months to find the right words, and that either she did it in the next 24 hours or I would post our messages in the family group. She didn't make it to 24 hours. She did it like 10 hours later. She posted a message in the group admitting she had lied, that I had never done anything to her, that everything had been a product of her emotional instability and personal problems, and that she was very sorry. The message was pathetic. Full of excuses again about her mental state and her failed relationship, but at least she admitted the truth. And that's when the second act of this nightmare began, because my phone literally wouldn't stop ringing. My mom called first, crying, telling me she was so sorry, that she had made a terrible mistake by not believing me, that she understood if I was furious with her but to please give her the chance to fix things. I didn't know what to say. I was angry. Very angry. But she was also my mom, and part of me wanted to forgive her, although another part couldn't forget how she had called me an aggressor without even listening to me. I told her I needed time, that I couldn't just act like nothing had happened, and she said she understood. Tom called after, sounded embarrassed, apologized for not having supported me, for having been neutral when he should have been on my side, and told me he'd understand if I didn't want to talk to him anymore, but that he hoped we could eventually rebuild our relationship. I told him basically the same thing as my mom, that I needed time. My dad sent me a long message explaining that he had always had doubts but didn't know how to handle the situation, that he should have trusted me, that he knew me better than that, and that he was deeply sorry. I responded to him a bit faster because honestly, his initial reaction had been less aggressive than everyone else's, although it still hurt that he had doubted. My Aunt Karen called me too, which was super weird because she had been the most hostile of everyone. She told me she had kicked Sarah out of her house, that she couldn't believe her own daughter had been capable of something like this, and that she understood if I didn't want to forgive either her or Sarah, but that she wanted me to know she would never again defend her daughter's actions. It was an uncomfortable conversation because part of me felt satisfaction knowing Sarah was facing consequences, but another part just wanted everything to be over. Eric sent me a message, apologizing for not believing me and telling me he knew I was a good person and should have trusted that. He also told me that Sarah was basically being cut off by the whole family, that several aunts, uncles, and cousins had blocked her, and that her boyfriend had left her when he found out what she'd done. Apparently, she also lost her job because someone told her boss about the situation, and the company decided they didn't want that kind of drama. I'm not gonna lie. I felt good hearing that. I know it sounds vindictive, but after everything I went through, feeling like there was justice somehow gave me some peace. Over time, I've been rebuilding some family relationships, but very cautiously. I see my mom every 2 or 3 weeks for coffee and to talk, and things are slowly improving, although there are awkward moments where I know she feels guilty and I still feel resentment. With Tom, things are a bit easier. We've gone back to talking often, and we even went to a soccer game together last month. My dad and I are also good. Better than before, I'd say, because I think all this made him value our relationship more, but there are people I simply haven't forgiven and probably never will. Several aunts, uncles, and cousins who were particularly cruel to me, who sent me messages saying horrible things, haven't received a response when they've tried to contact me. Sarah tried to talk to me several times after her confession, wanting to explain herself more, wanting me to forgive her, but I have her blocked everywhere, and plan to keep it that way forever. Eric tells me from time to time how she's doing. Apparently her life is a mess. She lost almost all her friendships besides family. She's living with a friend because her mom doesn't want her back, and she can't get stable work. Part of me feels sorry, but most of me simply feels she's getting exactly what she deserves. Rachel and I are better than ever. She was my rock through all this, and I don't know what I would have done without her. I proposed to her 2 weeks ago and she said yes, so at least something good came out of this whole disaster. It made me realize who's really there when things get tough. The wedding will be small. Just close friends and some select family members, definitely not going to be a big family reunion like the ones from before. A few days ago, my mom asked me if I could ever completely forgive the family for what happened, and I told her the truth, that I didn't know. Some wounds heal with time, but others leave. Permanent scars, and what Sarah did, and what all of them chose to believe without giving me a chance to defend myself, is something I can't just forget because she finally admitted the truth. The trust I had in my family broke, in a way. I don't know if it can be completely repaired. You know what I mean? Before I took for granted that my family would always be on my side, that they knew me well enough to know what I'm capable of and what I'm not. But it turned out that a dramatic message from Sarah was enough for everyone to discard me without thinking twice. Yesterday, I saw my dad for lunch, and he told me Sarah had sent him a handwritten letter, asking for help to reconnect with me. That she was in therapy now, and her therapist had suggested she try to make peace with the people she had hurt. I told him I was glad she was in therapy, but that I wasn't ready to be part of her healing process, that she destroyed my life on a selfish whim, and I didn't owe her anything. My dad nodded and said he understood perfectly, that he just wanted me to know she had tried to contact him. The truth is, I don't care what Sarah is doing now or how she's trying to rebuild her life. She has to live with the consequences of her actions, just like I had to live with the consequences of her lies. I guess if I learned anything from all this, it's that family isn't as unconditional as they make you believe, that people can fail you in ways you never imagined, and that at the end of the day, you have to build your own family with people who really know and value you. Rachel, my close friends, even my therapist, were more family to me during those dark months than the people I share blood with. And it's okay, I think, to accept that things are never going to be like they were before, and that maybe that's not a bad thing after all.